Thank you very much, guys. Joined here by Reckless after Fnatic goes 2-0 on the day. Now, I can only imagine after what happened yesterday, this must be a huge relief. How do you feel at the end of the two games? Oh, that is your mic, indeed.
So, yesterday I was really disappointed, obviously, because I felt like at an international tournament especially, you really want to make your fans proud. And I think that's like the last thing we did yesterday. So I really wanted today to show that we can actually compete with these teams and be a strong region as well, and not only have like one European team that can contest, but also show that the whole region can be a good region. So I'm really happy with today's performance because I think we show that the stuff we do in Europe, like the kind of macro we have or the kind of champion style we have, is just fine for winning against the better regions as well, which is going to give the other teams we have here a big boost too.
You say the champions you like to play in Europe. Caps did pull out the Yasuo now twice, and I want to talk a bit about that teammate because a lot has been about you this split in EU. You've had a great split, but we've always also talked about Caps. What is it like for you now to see him also step up on the international stage, and what can you just say about him at MSI so far?
So I think so far it's looking like Caps is the best mid laner we have at this tournament. So obviously that's really good for me because he's in my team. So it relieves a lot of pressure from me. Because as you said yourself, I'm very used to having most of the responsibility in terms of carrying, but I feel like at this tournament I haven't really had to carry a single game so far, which is really, really nice because I know then when it really comes down to it, I can actually step up and be there for him. But so far he's just been outstanding, so I think we're going to have a really good time moving forward too.
Yeah, we are looking forward. I do want to just talk about this last game. You've been playing for so long, and this game was very important for the standings specifically. Do you feel any added pressure still because it's NA versus EU, or how do you live that?
Not really. I felt more pressure playing against China and Korea because of how much stance they have as a region. Like, it's very important for us to show that we can keep up with those kind of regions, but I feel like we've already beaten NA in the past, and they've already beaten us, so it's not really that hype anymore. And for me, it was much more about playing against Doublelift, but I think I did a pretty good job in the situation, so I was really happy with the outcome.
And in general, I can only imagine for you this morning, beating Prey and Gorilla, was that a very special moment for you personally?
Well, I died in lane against Prey and Gorilla, so I was
true.
a bit disappointed, but I still felt like I did my job after that. I think that was my only mistake in that game. And then in this game, I had another mistake where I contested a pink in the river, and Olaf was bot side. When we had mid priorities, I was a bit confused. But I think other than that, I've been playing much better today than yesterday, and I kind of want to make up for the failures I showed yesterday as well, because I know how bad it looked from the outside, and I felt really bad playing that way too. So moving forward, I want to show that I can be the consistent guy that I'm famous of being, basically.
Well, looking forward then, you touched on it. This is great, but you're still 2-2, and as said, there are a lot of very, very good teams in this tournament. What will be the key to keeping this going, this Fnatic that just looks to be playing your own game finally?
So I think basically what you just said is the key to victory for us, because yesterday we tried a lot of new stuff since there's been a lot of patches since our playoffs, so we tried to adapt, but I think actually maybe that was a mistake. And doing what we did so good in spring was maybe the better approach, as you could see today. We played much more comfortable champions, much more comfortable style of play, so I think it was a lot easier for us today to execute and have a good game. Meanwhile, yesterday it was chaos and we didn't really know what to do, so I think moving forward we're just going to stick to what we know best, and if that's not enough, then we're going to have to maybe work on our fundamentals for the summer split. But I think if we can beat the Koreans, for example, like today, with the style that we practice for the spring split, we should actually have a pretty good chance of winning the whole thing. So.
Okay, fantastic. It looks great today. I hope you guys can keep it going for all the European fans that are watching. Thank you very much, Reckless.
Thank you so much.
Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to MSI Tonight. I'm your host, Dash, joined by Frosker and Papa Smithy. And Jat, a lot of happy EU fans today as they move to 2-0, once again defeating NA here, pushing them to 0-4, making their tournament hopes very much dwindle here in the middle of the group stage.
We can pay attention to Fnatic's success.
What?
Yes, we can. Yes, we
reframe
can.
it. Yeah.
A big 2-0 day, taking down Kingzone and then putting the stamp on it here in the 6th game of the day. Let's first take a look at how they did it, looking at picks and bans here. We had the Sivert coming through for Reckless. He mentioned himself there in the interview, returning a little bit to what they had found as their style in Spring Split and feeling like they're proving that if they execute on that style well, they can be a contender in this tournament.
Yeah, and also calling Caps the best mid laner at the tournament. I think him and Maple right
definitely
now
top
are
two.
kind of having that showdown, and it'll be a fun rematch to watch later on in this group stage. I do feel like Caps has been the standout player for this team, and I love how they actually went back to the Yasuo.
Yes.
Even though they'd lost with it, they'd seen Pobelter lose with it. That's one of those picks that you're maybe going to say they shouldn't have played had they lost this game, but when he did play it again, he is so clean on that pick.
And I think we have to add the wrinkles in here, because think about where the Yasuo has come out earlier today that we criticized, right? We can't just say, we criticize one Yasuo, we embrace the other one. Remember that it's become increasingly clear that Fnatic and TL's scrims before this tournament started influence their opinions of the meta. So when you do come back to actually playing this team that you had so much time preparing against, this is where this pick came up strong. And you could see it definitely had ramifications here, where the Azir was almost anonymous, and the Yasuo, it was just ascending further and further up.
And for me, the biggest difference between TL and Fnatic, even at the best version of TL, if you think back to their domestic split, is the ability to play side lanes. And that doesn't necessarily just mean the ability to 1-4 or to 1-3-1. It's simply the ability to manage your waves, to make sure that they that when you do get something, you're able to capitalize on it and to get more. Whereas Pobelter, I think it's a major weakness for him, as well as impact. I think it's particularly the solo laners. I know Bwifu had a pretty sketch, day number 1, Reckless wasn't showing up, but for day number 2, he was very strong, and Caps has just been on fire.
Yeah, I think that's something we definitely have to recognize. While we talk up Caps, and Reckless stepped up as well a bit today, Blippo, same thing, right? When it comes to the hand he lent to the team fighting and in the macro play here on that Scion, while maybe losing in CS a bit to Impact, definitely having more influence over the team fights.
Yeah, didn't look like a rookie today.
No.
He definitely looked like a rookie yesterday, and he's going to need to continue to have testy performances, right? We are now 40% of the way through the group stage. They have 2 wins. Typically speaking, 4 wins will probably get you into the knockout stage. So they've got plenty of tries left, and this is a really good day for them.
Right, sitting at 2-2, they're sitting pretty when looking at least snagging 4th to get out of the group stage. That means Fnatic are tied with RNG in 3rd place, looking to catch up with Kingzone over the next few games. Team Liquid, however, are off to a rough start as they are still fighting to get their first win. On top of that, we've got Flash Wolves at the top of the table, currently undefeated in MSI 2018.
Oh my goodness. You can't really say enough about the way they have played. Losing Karsa, so many people were underhyped about Flash Wolves coming into this, and I think there was reason to be underhyped for them, especially when you looked at the LMS. Yes, we mentioned they had more Korean imports, and a lot of the other traditionally strong LMS teams like J-Team and AHQ had kind of fallen down, and you're thinking, what's happening to this region? Clement, a lot of people's major contact to that region is actually casting the LPL now, so you didn't even have that. There was such small amounts of information coming out of that region. But add that to the fact that they were 0-5 at the start of the group stage at Worlds. There were so many things that are surprising about Flash Wolves winning here. And I think it's okay to be surprised and say that they're performing extremely well on the days, and they're looking good.
And again,
You go ahead first.
no, you really? Oh, that's so nice.
Look at my analysts getting along.
Oh, Papa. No, it's especially surprising to me the way that they do it. I knew that Flash Wolves like to be an objective team. They like to play poke champions, kind of pick people off of the objectives. But to see some of that macro be so clean, especially on day number 2. Huge complaint I had. Day number 1, I thought their Baron setups were really iffy, very 50-50, not getting the vision behind the pit. Today, especially against RNG, it was a beautiful Baron setup from Flash Wolves, and they should feel very proud with the adjustments or the small tunes they've made between day 1 and day 2.
And they've had their fingers on their own pulse. They've known what they've wanted to do, and they've committed to it, and it hasn't been one pick you could ban out. We thought maybe it was the Varus, because Betty had been defaulting to that in the regular season, defaulting to it on the first day. Ezreal comes in, they can plug and play that. They've been able to play so many different strategies, and they have no passengers. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, but MMD, Betty, and L in the past, these guys have been significant problems to them playing multiple different styles. Hanabi now in the top lane, very dependable. And Betty, when he's been called upon again and again, even against Uzi in that final game, our query is getting slapped away again and again because he keeps performing.
Yeah, with Flash Wolves sitting at 4-0, how does this change our perception of RNG and Kingzone? Obviously, Flash Wolves has not played Kingzone just yet, but these were the two teams that were pitted to be at the top of the table, and they're looking shakier than maybe some would have expected.
In my opinion, I think RNG have a bad read on the meta right now. And it makes sense normally when you have big patch changes. We played our finals on 8.6. It has been 2 patches since then. We were the last region to complete our finals, so it's been about 2 weeks worth of preparation time, which should be a lot. Delayed start into it. I don't want to give them too many excuses because they should have enough tape by now to correct these mistakes, and I feel like we haven't quite righted the ship. We're still sinking and not realizing what our strengths are. Uzi is a phenomenal Ezreal player. Just take the Ezreal. Stop prioritizing MLXG's champion pool, especially for the inconsistent performance that he's giving you.
Yeah, I think, and this has to do with tourney format.
Yeah.
I am not worried about RNG as long as Kingzone can beat Flash Wolves. Because if you look at the standings right now, #1 seed gets to pick their opponent for semifinals. So if Flash Wolves picked Fnatic and then Kingzone played RNG, then RNG worries. But I think RNG right now is just learning about the game in the group stage, making sure they finish top 4, and then take their chances from there. Because RNG actually knows all about how little group stage can matter in the grand scheme of things. They were actually first place in the group stage in 2016 and then had to play Korea in the semifinals again. So it really is just about getting enough wins to finish 4th and learning. And I think that's kind of how RNG played the whole regular split. Uzi didn't play until the Lunar New Year, and then they were a low seed in the playoffs, and then they still were able to win in the clutch when it really mattered. So I'm actually not worried for Kingzone or RNG, even if Flash Wolves has jumped out to a big start.
Let's also remember that while Flash Wolves largely counted out, EVOS as well largely counted out when moving into this group stage. They did go 1-1 yesterday, had an unfortunate 0-2 today. How do we feel about their performance, though? Because, for example, they played Kingzone extraordinarily close.
They committed hard, and that was something that Kingzone were not ready for. The champion kills per minute graphic that Deficio pulled up is so central in that we do have those passive games in Korea. They were so decisive today. It still felt, and maybe I'm just guilty of watching so much Kingzone, that Kingzone would pull it out because they had Khan monstering on Alawi, and yet there were multiple times, multiple gut checks for Kingzone in that game. And that's already something that you pat them on the back and say, you did drive them to a much more difficult game compared to Peanut running wild against them and other times that the Vietnamese squads have struggled against Korean opposition.
I think it is them moving from kind of blue shell to threat, though. This is, for me, I don't feel like EVOS is just kind of the last hurdle that you try to get over, and it might trip
That's
you
Team
up.
Liquid right now. They're blue shell at the moment.
They're kind of like a banana peel right now.
Or
like
that.
Are they a blue shell?
Green shell.
Blue shells always
Maybe it
get
hits.
the
Blue
one
shells
win.
get
Sorry, that's a good point.
They always get
We're
the
green
win.
shell.
You
We're just
have to
hoping it
hit
circles the
the
map
banana
3
peel.
times and maybe gets one person. I mean, let's talk about that. 0-4 start for Team Liquid. It doesn't mean they're mathematically out, but it does mean that they have a heck of a lot of work to do over the next 6 games.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad. And
What the hell's happening?
I mean, so
A lot
listen,
of things. A lot of things.
I'm
Listen,
looking at him like,
I'm
what's-
surprised by Flash Wolves being where they are. I was expecting Fnatic to be better than Team Liquid and Liquid to also be worse than Kingzone and RNG. I think there were a lot of flaws during the regular season. I didn't expect them to show in this way. I feel like maybe they took a bit too extended of a break. They definitely look a little bit rusty, but also they haven't been great.
You can't make any more
They were
excuses,
12
right?
and 8. Yeah, you can't make that many excuses. I think their team compositions have been bad, but their team composition against Fnatic is what I wanted them to play.
Right.
So at that point, there are no more excuses. They just got beat by a better team.
But do you think that then, as the like the North American representative, that was TL? Do you think that there's any? Oh, okay.
I think the game against Fnatic was TL. I think if they play EVOS again, they can beat them. I think they have a low percentage chance of beating RNG and Flash Wolves, which means they're probably going to be at 2 or 3 wins, maybe 1 win by the end of the group stage.
If right now I ask you to predict EVOS versus TL #2, do they win it?
I think they can win it.
Because I would say no. I would say EVOS again because
Because if you say that, you're basically saying they're 0-10.
And that's a fair point. I don't know. Of course, things can change on the last day. Maybe things will change with standings. But my problem is the trust is gone with this team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure any 2 people trust each other. The bot lane clearly doesn't, given all their struggles today. The fact that they had 2 different supports. The drafts have been all over the place. And honestly, there's people fall behind. And then there's no one there to pick them up. No one's picking anyone up, and that means there's no victories to be picked up.
Yeah, they do not have good recovery. North American LCS regular season, you play one game on Saturday, you go home. Play one game on Sunday, you go home, you get 5 more days. In the playoffs as well, they only dropped a single game and they won 9. So 2 of those sweeps, they never had to actually adjust. You play a very rapid amount of games against a lot of highly prepared, highly skilled teams here at MSI. And I don't think they're ready for that with this iteration of Team Liquid.
All right, fair enough. Now, earlier in the day, I asked you guys for your predictions. I want to take a look, see how you did. Of course, Papa Smithy was slotting in for the guest today. And given that we allowed you guys to flip-flop on the last game of the day, rightfully so, you all had the same predictions. So really, the standings don't move. Guests sitting one behind the 2 other analysts.
I was the only person to not flip-flop.
That is correct. That is correct. Well, we'll give you, so what do we do, a half point?
No. 0.5.
We just
0 points.
Pat on the back.
He says that he's telling
that's within the context of the
Some
rules.
love from me.
Yeah, good job.
I know what you mean when you
And
go.
Frost also said she considered Flash Wolves.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean,
did too.
we obviously touched on it a little bit when working through our perceptions of the teams and how they've changed, but how do you guys feel it has been to try and predict this tournament?
Oh, almost a nightmare, going back and forth constantly. I'm kicking myself a little bit for not putting more faith in Flash Wolves. I was probably the hardest on them. Flash Wolves, you've done it. I believe in you 100%. I'm all aboard the Flash Wolves train. I've bought my ticket right now, and I think you guys are true contenders for this tournament.
Well, they play Kingzone tomorrow. How
That to me is
how
the-
expensive
Yeah, I
was
was
that
going to say,
Flash
are you going to pick them over Kingzone?
No, but here's what's interesting, is we now have a blueprint for how to beat Kingzone. And
Can
I think,
Flash Wolves execute on the same blueprint that Fnatic laid out?
okay, there's 2 different things here. Do
Okay.
I think they will beat Kingzone? No, because I think Kingzone, I have faith that they will adjust. They will make the massive adjustments because they are the Korean team. This is what we see from them all the time. But that said, if any team could execute on a blueprint that has been shown, I would trust Flash Wolves most because they seem to understand exactly what the win conditions are for their composition and exactly what the win conditions are for their players. They know what their identity is. They're not trying to pretend to be anything else.
And I won't be on the desk tomorrow, but my one prediction for Kingzone versus Flash Wolves is that Kingzone were pretty asleep at the wheel for level 1 today. They were really off game 1, basically decided by the level 1 just because of how they drafted. They needed tempo, they had none, they couldn't control the game, they were a step behind. This is a team who's usually very proactive at level 1. I would be worried if I was Flash Wolves because they've got something cooking for tomorrow.
All right, well, let's move away from the teams themselves rather and look towards some standout performers. Yesterday, we talked about 4 ADCs and the influence they might have for their teams. Now I want to kind of move away from them. We're going to keep one of them around, and that's Kingzone's AD carry Prey, because he has exemplified the ability to play at the top tier level and help carry his team to victory as an AD carry.
And we've got a lot of tournament left to play, so it's a little bit early to be calling the best AD carry in the world, but I'm almost ready to wave that white flag to Prey. For me, my 2 competition was Uzi and Prey, and for me, I felt they were very polarizing. Uzi was all about the lane phase, and Prey was all about the team fight. You know, he's not a very resource-demanding ADC for his lane phase. Him and Gorilla don't get a lot of attention, and this tournament, that's remained true to an extent, but Prey is just so far above and beyond in these team fights, in his impact. You can feel him everywhere on the map. And so right now, Prey is the best ADC at the tournament with world-class competition of the ages.
I don't know if there's going to be any disagreement from the other analysts, so I'm going to move on to the next player on our list. We're moving outside the AD carry position now because unlike maybe the way we thought the tournament would be decided, there are many other players who are finding the ability to influence the map for their teams, Maple being one of them.
And he's one that we put, in this famous duo of Maple Karsa again and again. Obviously, that is over. And then last year, if you remember at Worlds, we were ascending Karsa and saying, Maple season, Karsa, though, alone. Now it's all about Maple. He has had a very good supporting cast here, but Maple's ability to play all styles, Vladimir, super hard carry, late game mid laner, Talia in their first game, feels like a while ago now, able to roam and open up bot lane. Being able to play both styles has really been impressive on this player, and whatever task they've given him, nullification of an enemy mid laner, hard carrying team fights, he's done it with aplomb.
Another player I want to take a look at, Muujin, of all people in the jungle here.
Yep, you talk about Flash Wolves, and you heard that Karsa was gone, and a lot of people like myself wasn't expecting much out of Muujin. Not really a history of success when you look at the teams this guy has been on in the past, but here he is undefeated in Toronto versus Olaf matchups, he's finding himself up in CS, which almost no one has been able to do. His pathing has been super good. His lanes aren't falling behind when he's doing invades. He's played super, super clean. And when you're having them executing better Baron control like we've seen, so much of that is from the jungler, letting the team know what he needs for smite control to deal with the enemy jungler. He has been one of the best junglers so far at MSI, and most people didn't even know that he existed before this tournament that are watching this broadcast.
Oh, absolutely. The name Mugen had not been heard for the majority of the world prior to this tournament, and he has performed quite well. The fourth and final person on our list is, of course, Caps, the young gun for Fnatic. We've given him praise throughout day 1 and day 2, but I think, where we said he performed well with some mistakes yesterday, he eliminated a fair number of those mistakes on day 2.
And the thing about Caps is I look at this player's performance, how much he's coming a star on the world scene, and I'm remembered of another Fnatic mid laner who made his name at MSI. It was all about Forbidden in 2015, his solo kills on Faker. Then everyone got super hyped about him. This is the moment where the baby Faker is no longer, we're talking about his age and his rookie status. He's taken off. I think everyone has a different moment, for sure. This is the player that has been on the most lips. He's been the most mentioned because his star performances have been amazing.
And I admit I'm over-dramatizing this moment, but when they had a chance to give the pentakill, the MSI pentakill to Reckless, and Caps just takes the kill himself, ties Reckless in the game for kills, it's a little symbolic. Like, Caps should take the kill. He is playing better than Reckless. He is contributing more to their success. So he is the carry of Fnatic so far, and that hasn't been the case. A name not Reckless has not been the case for years.
Yeah, you say it's an over-dramatization, but perhaps it's not. Even Reckless himself there in the interview at the end of the day with Shocks, recognizing the fact that not once yet in this tournament has he had to carry a game. It has been Caps leading the charge for that squad.
And if I'm Reckless, my first thought is to be a bit annoyed, right? Because you missed out on the first pentakill at MSI. But your second thought is to take a step back, realize the tournament this player is happening, and give that begrudging respect and say, sure.
I did just receive word that we have video of that pentakill as well as a small comment from Reckless.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and roll that now.
We penta, don't kill, let him penta.
I'm fucking low, so he can kill me.
Kill him.
I'm really low, just kill him.
No troll.
Oh, the
Maybe I
locket
can, maybe I
bait.
can.
Knock him.
I'm the winner, no!
Oh.
I win over you! It's okay, it's okay.
There you go.
Cautious Reckless. I'm really low. It's okay. You could kill him. Again, recognizing
Then they
kind of...
cheesed him.
They
Yeah.
did.
They're like,
they did.
no, we'll hold it for you, bro.
Right, we can give it to you. Yeah, step up, buddy. Step up.
Yeah.
They just wanted him to die, really, in actuality, is what that is. But again,
Classic.
good on Fnatic for turning things around here in day 2 and making the tournament interesting for themselves and all the European fans here in the home crowd.
Yeah, and such a good thing for them to be able to do this today. Having MSI in Europe, it would have been very deflating if they'd come out of today at 0-4 or 1-3. Being able to bounce back like that, you heard Reckless even say in the post-game interview how he wants to represent the region and how he's very disappointed in Game 1. And also, initially he did say, just take the kill. I don't need the penta. Reckless should know at this point that another pentakill is going to be nothing in terms of his legacy. But an MSI first place finish or
title.
Oh.
second place finish or titles because Caps gets the confidence to become the best mid laner.
Right.
That's what's going to make Reckless's legacy
That's a
more
show of
untouchable.
maturity there for a player. I mean, it's a minor one, but it is a show of maturity nonetheless. We'll see what these players can do tomorrow with RNG taking on Team Liquid in our first game of the day. Of course, followed by EVOS versus Fnatic. From there, Kingzone and Flash Wolves will close out the first round robin before we move on to the second half of the MSI group stage. Taking a look at tomorrow's schedule, I want to give you guys an opportunity to tease any matchups that you're really looking forward to.
Of course, for me, I'm looking at RNG's games. It's Fnatic, which the rematch again, they almost lost to Fnatic in the first game of the tournament, and then they also need to look at TL. So this is the time for RNG to really cement themselves. China is still number 2. You still gotta go through us before you even get a shot at Korea again. And if they fall down here, then some of the alarm bells start going off.
Game of the day, to me, is Kingzone versus Flash Wolves.
Right in the middle of the table there. That's the one. It's the two big teams. They haven't played against each other. A lot of people will have Kingzone as clear favorites, but after today, there's going to be higher percentage of people saying, let's see if the world starts burning, and Flash Wolves goes 5-0 in the first half of the round robin.
Day 2 has come to a close, so now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more MSI 2018. Good night.
well. Whippo, no flash on him, of course, there's the suppression, but it's only onto Peanut, and Brox has gone way too far. Here comes the Corki, though. One on Khan. Peanut goes into the globules as well. BDD's going to fight off Whippo and Caps, trying to catch on towards that. Zach able to get the double. Caps secures it. Fnatic are gonna take the game. They'll kill the unkillable and take down Kingdom. Here's the call of the Forge God as well from Stark on that backline, but all of RNG are just shredding through EVOS. A double. Let me's down towards that bottom side. No Stand United for him. EVOS know it. They're gonna try and make a fight happen, but Let me has the flank. The damage. Rono P dead. Slave falls down at the back of the fight as well. RNG take down the Nexus. Take down the Nexus, take the turrets, take down everything towards the towers. The last breath comes out, but Pobelter just does nothing. No damage at all, and Flash Wolves are looking for the win here. Flash Wolves going deep to the Team Liquid base. They'll secure 2 more kills. The hero's entrance from Maple, who has been a hero this entire game.
The power of the Karma following that one up. Inner Flame not quite going to find the mark, but Prey now dominating. Takes down the enemy AD carry. They will make a clean sweep out of Evos. He can't quite do what he wants to do. Instead, getting taken down. Maple grabs that kill there for himself. Xiaohu trying to get himself away, but it's Betty. Betty off to the side, wanting to take this one down. Uzi looking to go in, can he find the damage? Flash Wolves win! As Impact stands alone behind enemy lines, Ole tries to hobble away from this one, but the Pillar will provide the quadra kill for Reckless.
The Team Liquid, they knew that to try and force a fight here or the game would just end. But Fnatic, they were ready for it, and of course they destroyed him.